Welcome to All the Gear But No Idea, the South Australian fishing podcast hosted by Rhodey and Diz. The boys will share their tall tales of the one that got away, as well as some regular segments they know all you fishing tragics will enjoy.
G'day guys and welcome to episode 146 of All the Gear But No Idea, the South Australian fishing podcast. That's a great noise, Rhodey, cracking the lid on a Cooper's Australian Lager. What a beautiful drop of beer that is. And we are having a chat to Fraser Ellis today, the honourable member for Narungga on the Yorke Peninsula. It's going to be great to have a chat with him. We did all the way back in 2021. And it's going to be great to have an update from him on a few things happening in his electorate on the Yorks.
It has been busy over there, Diz. The algaes are running amok to some extent. The Marion Bay boat ramp's been back and forth, and he's got an update on what's happening with all that. So that'll be great to chat with him, Diz.
Very good. Good call, Rhodey. Let's get into oranges and lemons. I'm going to start with my orange being it's the week of the grand final. There's a buzz. There's a bit of buzz. There was more buzz last year when we were going.
Yeah, well, that's my lemon. I'm jumping in early. My lemon is not being there. We've been 2 years in a row, and I'm a bit into this buzz of the grand final, but I'm also a bit flat we're not going.
Yeah, good call. How's Brisbane getting back there 3 years in a row?
Yes, yeah, they've defied
impressive.
all odds probably with all their injuries they've had. And I think they'll be the popular pick. I think people have probably had enough of Geelong over the last 20 years being so good. And I think everyone loves Chris Fagan.
Yeah, good call. Do you think the sensible pick, though, if you were a betting man, would be Geelong? Or...
You'd say a lot's gone right for Geelong in the last 6 or 8 weeks, whereas Brisbane have played 3 weeks in a row. They're coming in a little bit banged up. They'll probably play Lachie Neale on one leg. I know Geelong are missing Tom Stewart, but I think probably the easy choice is Geelong. But I think as the week's gone on, I've got a bit more confidence in Brisbane.
Fair enough. All right, Rhodey, we've jumped all over the place there. So I've done my orange. You've done your lemon. What's your orange?
Dizzy, I've been watching a show. I think it's on the Disney Channel. Can you confirm that?
Yes, it is.
Shipwreck Hunters, Australia. Yeah. Heavy WA influence. So far, I've not seen them leave WA. Yeah. But they're these 4 or 5 divers and sort of boaties and whatever else that go and hunt these shipwrecks. And I just love watching the technology they have. Yeah. The magnetometer.
Yeah.
And I just think we could find some reefs with that puppy.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. I mean, I've only dabbled in shipwreck hunters, and I know the magnetometer that you're talking about, and the fact that they can't find like an 80-foot boat on the bottom of the ocean with this thing makes me worry that we might not be able to find that many reefs.
But when they do find a bit of a shipwreck, there's like 7,000 nanogai on it.
Yes.
And some big,
really cool footage when they can dive on it, because of course some of them are so deep they can't dive on it.
Yeah.
And need to send the robot
those
down.
Jewfish, the DHU fish.
Yes.
You know the one they get over there?
The Deweys.
Yeah, some big ones of them I've seen too.
Good stuff. All right, I'll roll that into my lemon, which is I went down to a tackle store. I had a voucher actually to go into a tackle store, and I wanted to go in, I wanted to use it, I wanted to spend a bit of money in there. I wanted to show my support.
You were supporting the locals, I hope, Diz?
I wanted to support a tackle store because they're doing it tough. And geez, mate, it was so quiet. It was unbelievably quiet. It was really not great to see. And I love going into a tackle shop. There's nothing better. And I love just shopping around, checking out. I actually quite like in tackle shops, there's a lot of little widgets.
Yeah,
there's always a few little that you look at and you go, oh yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, it's one of those you either need to go in with I know exactly what I'm getting and I know where I'm getting it and I'm not looking at anything else. I'm buying that exact size hook and I'm getting out before I get tempted.
Yeah.
Or you need to go in on a Saturday with no time frame.
Yeah.
And you spend an hour.
Yeah. And you walk past all the sales bins. They've all got sales bins.
Yeah.
There's a run out on some sort of squid jag, or there's a run out on a hook range or something like that. And, you're always going to take advantage of one of them, either on the way in or the way out, one or the other. But anyway, my lemon was to see how quiet it was, but I'd really love all you listeners out there to turn that in a bit of an orange and get down, support your local tackle store.
Very good, Diz. That's a good shout out.
Rody, we have, of course, recently run the monthly photo comp. We announced the winner last episode. That was very good to see. They've been
Lisa Jarvis,
happily coordinating with us about getting that wonderful prize. And it won't be long before we'll run another one. Absolutely it won't be. The long weekend's coming up before too long. You want to be getting out there, getting some photos, doing some fishing, all that fun stuff, Rody.
You certainly do, Diz, so we'll have another competition before too long, so keep an eye on our socials, Diz. We did, though, get a nice message. This is from a man named Mark from Wallaroo.
Yes.
So he was fishing, I think this was last week he might have sent this through. They got the bag of whiting, good on them. The sun was setting and the battery was flat. So they hook up the jump pack, goes flat. So this is a quote. Waved down a boat, the lads were low on fuel but tried to charge our jump pack for 15 minutes, still no luck. Rang Sea Rescue as no other boats around us. Along came a boat steaming out from Wallaroo for a late fish. It's Port Hughes Fishing Charters. He sees us waving and diverts, mucks around and gets his second battery out and gives it to us and says drop it back to us later. This not only got us back to the marina now being dark, but also probably killed his late last hour fish before dark. What an absolute legend. Would highly suggest going on a charter with someone with good morals and good fishing spots. Cheers, Mark from Wallaroo. So that is an absolute great message to read. A big thumbs up to Port Hughes Fishing Charters, Diz.
They're a bloody great charter operator.
Certainly, Diz, and they catch fish and they're good blokes to boot.
Yeah, absolutely. Never heard a bad word say about them. They're doing absolutely brilliantly over there. So if you need a wonderful day out on the water, get in touch with them on their socials. Give them a buzz. They always have a great time. Rhodey,
and thanks to Mark from Wallaroo for sharing that story with us.
Good on you, Mark. We love it when you share a story like that, especially when it's spreading a great message like that. Rhodey, what else have you got for us, mate?
So, Diz, we shared one of those, I think it was a video or a post from Asher from Wreckfish, basically saying what are the fishing public in SA wants to be done to promote fishing, to get us moving in the right direction. What should we do? And Rick Kazulan, he's a former guest of the podcast, he had a good answer that I thought we should run. He's just said stock the Murray with loads of cod and callop, then run $1 million fish competition, exactly how they do it in the NT with Barra. He goes on to say that over 62,000 registered anglers in the $1 million fish in NT, with 57% of them being from interstate, $210,000 in prizes. I think he understands we might not have $1 million fish, but he suggests that $10,000 for catching a tagged Murray cod will bring bucket loads of people coming to try.
Yep. And
I think that's a great suggestion.
I don't disagree. So thanks again. Well done to Rick for getting involved and spreading a wonderful idea across the socials. Let's certainly hope that gets a bit of traction in one way or another. Rhodey, let's get into the news.
Rhodey and Diz have been searching far and wide to bring you the latest news across all fishing in the state, and will give you the rundown on what you need to know.
Righto, Rhodey, we've got a great little news segment here. I'm not going to sort of say it's the longest, most extensive news update, but it's going to be good nonetheless. Rhodey, let's talk a little bit about the algae at the top of this section. We've been hearing some wonderful reports coming out of Edithburgh that not only are the fishing getting a bit better there, but also seems to be some signs that it's clearing up maybe a little bit, the algae. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think there was some video footage or photos I saw from around the Edithburgh jetty seeming to suggest that a bit of life was coming back. And I did see a screenshot from the, what's it called, the webcam that they have at the car park at the Edithburgh boat ramp. You know, one of those cameras they have that lets you sort of check how big the queue is. And there were quite a few boats out at Edithburgh the other day, Diz. So that was a positive, and hopefully they're catching fish. But I think little signs that it might be bouncing back around there, Diz.
Yeah, good news there, and let's hope that good news keeps coming, Rhodey. Vouchers, they're out. The coast is calling.
Yeah, did you get one?
No, I tried.
Did you? I didn't. I actually had it on my... I ummed and ahed whether I went for the for the accommodation voucher or the experience voucher. And I said to Lucy, "You've got to do it tonight. That's the last night. We've got to get it done."
Yeah.
We were going to do one of each, and we didn't do it. We forgot.
No, I tried. It was a wonderful initiative by the government to drive some tourism to some of the areas that are affected by the algae and the tourism. So well done to the government on that. I'm sure that there'll be a lot of people enjoying those vouchers. Ready?
Yeah, a bit flat I missed out. Mum got something. I think she got an experience voucher.
Happy days.
So she'll be enjoying it.
Very good. Rhodey, a great story coming out about the reopening of the shellfish production and harvesting, if you will, at Kangaroo Island.
Yeah, Diz, it's good that we are starting to see some positivity as this algae starts to improve. But the American River shellfish harvesting area on Kangaroo Island has been reopened following the lifting of a closure which had been in place due to the detection of brever toxins.
Yes.
So routine testing by the South Australian Shellfish Quality Assurance Program, SASQAP, which is a joint initiative by the state government and the shellfish sector, has confirmed that the brever toxin levels have returned to safe levels, allowing commercial harvesting to resume immediately. That's great to hear, Diz.
It is, mate. It is absolutely excellent to hear, and I certainly hope some of that positive news continues to happen and people start to catch more fish and people are getting out and about, all those sorts of things.
And we should mention that closures remain in place at Kabowie, Franklin Harbour, Port Vincent and Stansbury oyster harvesting areas and the harvesting of pippies from the Coorong. But the majority of South Australia's shellfish harvesting areas remain open and their produce is safe to eat. I suppose some of those Coffin Bay and the like, those ones, Smoky Bay, those oysters further over that side of the Eyre Peninsula are the ones that we are hoping stay good, Diz.
Yes, absolutely we do. Rhodey, good shout. Rhodey, one little other section of news that we want to be covering before we round this one out is the Regfish clinics. Tell us about them.
Diz, they're back for another year. So the kids and women's clinics are back. There is a beginner knot tying clinic at Gotcha Tackle in St Maurice. That one's on Wednesday, the 24th of September, 6:30 to 8:30. That's actually tonight, Diz. So we should have recorded the episode yesterday.
We should have gone live.
Anyway, there's another one at Sports Fishing Scene coming up on the 21st of October, another Real Women Clinic, which is great from Recfish. And I know the kids' fishing clinics are back as well. I know the Recfish Reeling In staff were in the Riverland recently, catching some freshwater carp and the likes with the Blanchetown Primary School, Diz.
Very good, mate. We love the work the Recfish gets up to on spreading the word, getting more people involved, doing a range of different activities to showcase all that rec fishing has to offer and the benefits of it. Rhodey, let's round out that news segment. It was good. Let's get into the tackle item.
Now it's time for Rhodey and Diz to really show you what it means to have all the gear with a lot of idea as they review a tackle item of the week.
All right, Dizzy, we are going to touch on a special item today that makes sure you get the most out of your fish fillets, Diz, and it's a filleting knife from Shimano.
Yeah, looks the part. Really good looking piece of kit.
Dizzy, these are a high quality piece of gear. They have, I know the blade's really important in a knife, but I love a handle that feels nice in your hand.
Yeah, good call.
It's a nice sort of sturdy handle, sort of nice soft foam. These knives are beautiful stainless steel with a Teflon coating for rust resistance. The other thing that I like about them, Dizzy, is they've got a vented sheath, so it's got lots of airflow, so your knife doesn't get water sitting on it and go rusty. And there's also like a little thing, but there's a little hook that keeps the sheath on the knife. Yeah. There's nothing worse than your sheath not staying on your knife, Diz.
Yeah, good call. And that the handle is exceptionally comfortable.
Ergonomic, I'd say. Ergonomic. That's the word you're looking for.
But whilst yes, it is some sort of foam, Very durable too.
It's non-slip foam too.
Very durable. That thing's going to go the test of time.
And the Teflon-coated stainless steel is 5CR15T. I don't know much about stainless steel, but that sounds pretty good.
It does. It sounds like some of the best stainless steel money can buy.
So they come in a 6, a 7 and a 9-inch filleting knife. They all are recommended retail price of $39.99. We've got the small 6-inch one, which I filleted some nice whiting fillets the other week from Port Hughes Diz.
Yep.
I did them myself, so I won't be having any of your pin bones left in them. Or, you do that classic, like I'm going to try and get every single little milligram of fillet off, and I'm going to take the fins off as well.
Yeah.
That's a classic you move.
Well, mate, you got to get the most.
Anyway, I did them myself, so I know their quality. And I used this knife, and it did really good for me, Diz. We've also got the 9-inch. I reckon that's going to be really good for cutting up a couple of fillets of tuna, Diz.
Yep.
When the season rolls around. So $39.99, they're good value, Diz, and you can get them wherever you get your Shimano products.
Good call, Rody. Lovely little tackle item a week. It's a great present for somebody. It's great to add to your tackle kit, and it's a great reason to get down to your local tackle store as well, Rody, and buy yourself a new filleting knife.
Yes, go in, support the local tackle store, sports fishing scene, and the like.
Excellent. Brody, we are very excited to have a chat to Fraser Ellis, the member for Narungga over there, to have a chat and update about all things going on Yorke. So let's get him on the line.
Now it's time to get our guest on the line. We'll ask them the all-important 5 questions, then chat all things fishing in SA.
Well, Rody, we're very lucky to be joined by Fraser Ellis. We last had him on episode 36 all the way back in July of 2021. It is great to have the honourable member for Narungga, Fraser, on the show. Thanks for joining, mate.
Thanks, mate. Normally people come back through popular demand, but in this case it seems to be through an absence of demand at all. It's very nice.
It's more of a necessity, this one, Fraser, because there's so much fishing news on the Yorke Peninsula. We had to get you back for an update.
Yeah, the biggest news is that I didn't get invited to your last trip out here. I'm sure on the socials that you're at Port Hughes and called and asked if I could join in, and sort of 12 to 18 hours later you sent me another message saying, no, we're on the way home. And
it was a wonderful day we had on the Yorke Peninsula. That side of the Gulf, that Gulf is absolutely firing, and we were certainly doing our best to encourage people to get out and get amongst it, even amongst this algae bloom, which we are going to get into shortly. But before we do that, mate, we are keen to have a chat with you about the Marion Bay boat ramp. Can you give us a bit of an update from your perspective, and then we'll talk through a few issues?
Yeah, so from my perspective, it was a wonderful thing that the council did in undertaking to attempt to improve that ramp. There was quite a few people who use that ramp who were complaining that it was a difficult thing to use without any median strip or whatever the proper terminology is, or bumper ramps or anything like that. Unfortunately, that was recommended to them and settled upon by council was probably not the greatest little bit of drawing that they could have relied upon. And as a result, there was a fairly significant community backlash to what was installed. And eventually council have now resolved to remove the centre walkway, the permanent non-floating centre walkway, and I believe the pylons that were populating each side of each ramp. So I haven't actually been down there, but I think that they're all gone now, and it's just basically comparable ramp to what was there before, and a nice brand new car park.
Yeah, okay, so it's basically we've just doubled what we had.
Yeah, so just a bigger, longer concrete ramp in the ocean, and a nicer car park and entry area, which is a bit of a shame to have wasted so much money on a new ramp and then having to remove it, straight away. But it probably, in my view, would have been a bigger shame if council and government had been so pig-headed to ignore the community feedback about the deficiencies in the new ramp and stuck with it despite the fact no one wanted it. So in that sense, it's good to see them reacting to community sentiment.
Yeah, and is the community happy now to be, have a boat ramp, even though it's not perfect? It's sort of what we already had and it's safe, and I suppose for most boats on most days it's okay. Are people happy?
Well, I'm hesitant to speak on behalf of all the fishers right? Because as you know, I'm not one, but I went down there after the new ramp had been installed and sat in the community hall there with sort of 30 to 50, I reckon, local Marion Bay residents and had a chat about their thoughts. And it was a unanimous view from those in that room that it would be better having had the centre walkway removed than what was offered up as part of that new ramp. So I'd say, without intending to speak for them, that the actual local community of Marion Bay residents are happier now than they were before.
And do you think that will be it, Fraser? Do you think there'll be another effort to try and do something else or do a better job of it? Or do you think we've wasted the money once, now we just stick to what we've got?
Well, it'd be an interesting question to ask you two, I reckon, as to whether you think there is something that should be put there instead. I think my uneducated view is that the only thing that would do the trick is some sort of harbour system that would protect boats from the swell and accumulation of seaweed. Everywhere else, they put a rock groin out from the beach. It's completely stuffed up the sand drift and caused more problems than solutions it's provided. So I'd be hesitant to endorse some sort of harbour or rock groin out from the beach. And in absence of that, I'm not sure there's any other solution that's worth pursuing. But what do you blokes think?
Yeah, fair comment. I think, Fraser, and we did happen to have one of the engineers from the company that was charged to build the ramp, and it was certainly, we discussed about the wave attenuators that were attached to the pylons, and that seemed to be causing an enormous amount of weed build up. And we did have a discussion with him about other locations that may have been considered, or like you said, whether there was a rock groin put out. But, at the end of the day, a lot of these things do come down to the scope of works, the budget, et cetera, et cetera. Now, us personally, we've used the ramp a number of times, the old ramp, if you will. And look, fortunately, we tend to go down there when the weather is absolutely pristine because our boat's not capable enough of going out when it's nasty. But I think, part of the effort, I think, was to allow access for, larger vessels or emergency services should they ever need to go out there for a rescue for that part of the world that can be quite treacherous. So I think... it's disappointing that it hasn't worked out, but if I take a purely selfish perspective, we never had a problem with the old one and would consider it a bit of a waste.
You blokes have got the power to change the weather anyway, don't you? So it's, no wonder it's always beautiful when you're down.
And I suppose when we did talk with Terry, the engineer, it did become apparent that the restrictions of the finances, they weren't going to keep everyone happy. And maybe at that point they should have just said, look, we're trying to, keep everyone happy and it's impossible on this budget. And maybe the decision should have been made that there was no good option without spending a lot more money.
Yeah, possibly. But, I mean, the 4 or so mil that they got to fix it up initially was a fairly significant percentage of the SA Better Boating Facilities grant total fund. I'm not sure that there have been too many other ramps around the state that have got a larger contribution from that fund. So... I mean, moving the ramp would be one option, I suspect, I think, which is what you referenced, is to around the corner into the bay a bit more, where it's a bit more protected, perhaps. That drags people out of the main street and away from the pub and that sort of thing as well, I guess. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer is a short answer to your question, but for the time being, at least, locals seem to be happier now than they were with the new ramp. So, can I just reiterate the credit to council? Because firstly, I think they deserve a bit of credit for trying to improve the facilities at Marion Bay. And secondly, I think they deserve credit for listening and acknowledging they maybe didn't get it quite right and making some changes.
Agreed, certainly agreed. And I think as the weather gets a little bit better and more people are out and about and they're, taking advantage of summer holidays and the likes, I'm sure we'll get some more feedback, and you will as well, no doubt, Fraser, over the summer season. So thanks for that update on the Marion Bay boat ramp. That's really good, Fraser. We do want to talk to you, of course, about the Algal Bloom. Again, it'd be great to start with your perspective. I'm sure you've heard firsthand from people on the ground about how devastating this has been for whether it's their business, the effect on tourism, the likes. Give us a bit of an update, mate.
Yeah, well, the fishing seems to be absolutely stuffed in Gulf St Vincent. I don't know if you blokes have been out there.
Yeah, there's no fish at the moment.
No, and I'm not a fisher, it's completely transparently, but I'm hearing that the calamari particularly is hard to find / non-existent.
Yeah.
And some seriously ominous signs about how long it might take to bounce back.
So do you have any ideas about, how that's going to affect tourism over summer. I know a lot of places are well down on bookings. It sort of doesn't sound like it's going to get better particularly quickly. Are you sort of that opinion that it could be a rough summer for a lot of the tourist towns on the Yorke Peninsula?
Certainly shaping up that way. I mean, there is other things to do here, but it is there is a lot of people that come for the fishing. But so it's certainly shaping up though. And honestly, it hasn't been a particularly wet winter for the farmers either. So it could be a double whammy for our part of the world and not having a great ag season, and then the tourism season's down. It leaves us in a little bit of a spot, but we shall see. We shall see. I'm certainly hearing anecdotally that the tourism businesses are down. Maybe not down to the point where they qualify. A lot of them qualify for the grants the government have put out, so less than 30%, but certainly down a little bit. And we'll see if it goes away and turns around in time for summer.
In terms of what the government's been doing, there's those coasties calling, I think they're called those vouchers. Hopefully that helps a little bit. They've had those forums recently, Fraser, that you're involved with over on the Yorke Peninsula. What sort of came of that discussion?
A lot of chatting, which is what government forums bloody seem to be good at.
Yeah.
I don't know, mate. It's been interesting to hear insights from the experts. There's been a lady called Faith Coleman who's, I think, a marine ecologist.
We've had her on the podcast. She's very informative,
Very switched on lady. She's been very informative and interesting to listen to. So it's been good to hear from her. And then I guess the other interesting speakers have been the professional fishermen and the impact on their businesses. It'd be interesting to see what the government chooses to do with them into the future. If we're looking at years and years for the fish stocks to bounce back in Gulf St Vincent, obviously those businesses won't last without any fish to catch for that long. It might be that the government have to consider whether they need to buy out the professional fishing licenses in Gulf St Vincent or lease them back from the owners temporarily or something along those lines to ease the burden on the fish stocks going forward.
Well, it'll be interesting because there was some talk already around the snapper fishery and a buyback of professional licenses. So whether that ties into all that, that'll be interesting to follow.
Yep. And then I guess for your listeners, interesting as well, if they shut it or remove access for the professional fishermen, whether there's any sort of reciprocal action for recreational fishermen.
Do you think that would be a possibility at all, that fishing was, closed for certain areas of the state?
It's got to be. I'm not in the government. I'm not a member of the government. I'm not in the inner sanctum, but it's got to be something that they're at least discussing, I would have thought. To my logic, that every breeding fish that's left, if it's as dire as it sounds, every breeding fish that's left in the ocean is one more that could contribute to the restocking of the fishery in the fullness of time. So the less we take out, the better, and the quicker it'll bounce back. So to my logic, it must be something that they're considering doing to try and speed up that process and short-term pain for long-term gain. But again, this is my guesswork. I'm not in the inner sanctum. I'm not part of those discussions, so I'm not entirely sure where they are or aren't.
And Fraser, some of those forums, I mean, I know that there's been a lot of publicity about the bubble curtain that's been put in down where the cuttlefish breeding area is. What other sort of strategies have you been hearing that might go some way to either protecting certain parts of the Gulf or helping to move the algae on or help disseminate the algae faster? Have you heard anything, or is it all speculation?
We had one bloke in an Ardrossan one, I think, suggested we get a big boom spray from a farmer and put it on a ferry and spray chlorine out in the ocean to try and clear it up.
That's an idea.
It's no bad ideas.
Didn't go over that well with some of the people that are passionate about the preservation of our fish stocks, but at least he's thinking about it. I think the answer the government's relying on is trying to ramp up the oysters. So they tell us, as I'm sure Faith told you, that oysters and shellfish are wonderful bottom feeders, I think they call them, and they chew up a lot of this algae and eat it and digest it, I guess. And the more of those artificial shellfish reefs they can install, the quicker it'll be able to work its way through the algae and whatnot to try and get it moving. So that's one of the things they've announced. Now, I don't know how short-term that is, and it might take some time for them to be built, but they're working on that.
Yeah, well, that's got to be good for the Gulfs in general, the health of the Gulfs, rehabilitation and all that sort of stuff anyway.
No, we love a shellfish race, don't we?
What have you been hearing about sort of the algal bloom and, how it's spreading and moving? It sounds like Edithburgh might be clearing up a little bit, but maybe spreading up the other side into Spencer Gulf. Have you sort of been hearing any of that, or what do you hear?
As far as I know, they haven't found too much of it in Spencer Gulf. I think they recorded some in was it Louth Bay the other day? So right down the bottom of Spencer. So hopefully it doesn't get up that side as well. But it's the last I heard, it was moving in a bit of a cyclical manner around Gulf St Vincent, up one side and down the other. So yeah, I think it's sort of working its way around the Gulf, and no one seems to be able to pinpoint when it will be dissipated or moved on, but hopefully it's sooner rather than later.
Sounds good, Fraser. Thank you for the update from your perspective and things you're hearing on the ground, mate. Let's talk a bit about the Barrunga West Council waiving boat ramp fees. That would absolutely be welcome news for everybody who fishes in that part of the world. I'm sure that you've heard the same sort of feedback from people on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. I was keen to chat about this because I reckon it's something that the recreational fishing sector, and I'm sure they are already, so I don't mean to suggest that they're not, but should be pushing with the election coming up in 6 months or so. It's Barrunga West Council have done it to great success. Have foregone the revenue that they would have otherwise, the small revenue that they would have otherwise got from boat ramp fees, and made it free for people to fish at their boat ramps, so as to attract people to their region and, make their town more popular. So I think, particularly as we bounce back from this algal bloom and people are trying to figure out ways to get fishers to their towns, perhaps other councils should be looking at this as an initiative that they could adopt to encourage people to visit and stay in their community. So I just reckon the rec fishing community, and I'll certainly be supportive if they do, should keep pushing for boat ramp fee waiving at different boat ramps around the state to try and help the local communities bounce back.
Yeah, and certainly the $10 that the local economy loses for that boat ramp fee that's not paid would be paid off for in pub meals and petrol at the local servo and caravan parks and all that sort of stuff. So you're right, getting people out in the regions is the best thing we can do.
Yeah, completely agree, and it's a more of an administrative nuisance than an fiscal reward. Anyhow, I would have thought the small amount that boaties have to pay to go out. So I'd say to other councils, consider following Barrunga West's lead and waiving that fee and make it that little bit more attractive for people to come to our region and a little bit cheaper for people that are struggling with cost of living to engage in a nice, active, healthy hobby.
Very good, Fraser. Now, before we leave you, anything else new on Yorks? What's happening in the fishing space? You're just trying to get people back over there. Is there any other messages you've got for the fishos of the state?
Yeah, well, there's for two of them particularly, I'd like an invite next time they go out.
We've seen you hold a rod and reel, and we didn't want to see it again, Fraser.
After you've spent the last 15 minutes saying that you're not a fisher, you now want us to invite you out. How ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, how am I going to become a fisher unless someone takes me out?
I'd rather invite someone who enjoys it, mate.
Well, I can maybe drink a couple of frothies and that while you like fish.
All right, we'll hold you to that phrase. Next time we're going out, you're coming with us whether you like it or not.
You're on the record now.
Can you message me before you go rather than just when you're on your way home, mate?
Oh, very good phrase. Well, thanks for coming on and sharing an update on the boat ramp, the algal bloom, and everything that's happening in fishing on the Yorke Peninsula. It's been really good to talk to you, Fraser.
No stress, fellas. We'll see you for a frothy soon.
Chat to you soon, mate.
All right, Dizzy, that was great to chat with Fraser. A bit rich of him asking to come fishing with us. For context, we've asked Fraser to come fishing with us a lot of times over the years, and he's just flat out refused.
Yeah, it's basically been one of those things that you try, and you eventually know what answer you're going to get, so you just don't do it anymore.
Yeah, and now we don't do it, and he doesn't. Now he chirps us like that.
Unbelievable scenes. Rhodey, it was interesting talking about the Marion Bay boat ramp. Like you said, when we had Fraser on the line, we talked to Terry from McGrine Engineering to have a chat with him, and he gave us a good rundown around the brief and this and that and the others. And as was said, community backlash was bad. Wasn't well received. They've made some adjustments. It appears now as though the communities are a bit happier. The facilities around the boat ramp, I'd say, are an enormous upgrade.
They are, Diz, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster, I suppose. Everyone was really happy and optimistic at the start that some money was being spent, and as Fraser mentioned, it was quite a lot of money was being spent And everyone thought they were going to get a great boat ramp, and then everyone was so disappointed with the outcome. And now probably people are back to sort of some sort of positivity that at least, as Fraser mentioned, the council has listened. And we're back to something that's fairly functional. Like you say, Diz, it's always been fine for our boat. And I suppose the other thing for mine is if you're not capable of launching your own boat on those sort of plain concrete slabs, maybe you shouldn't be heading out into those open waters off Marion Bay.
Yeah, that's probably a fair statement. And I think, like we said to Fraser, like we would really, like we are launching our boat there not to fish in the bay. We're launching our boat there to maybe go out to Althorpes or to go out one of the islands or really get far offshore. So we're only launching there on some of those glamour days. And, of course, you see a range of boats being launched on those days from, tinnies all the way up to, 9, 10 metre lovely trailer boats. So, it does need to cater to all. It needs to be able to get some of those boats in the water on some of the worst conditions that the ocean can throw at us. So it's going to be interesting to see how the community responds over time.
I don't think that's the last we'll hear of it. I think there will be another push at some point to do something else.
Yeah,
but I do think with that budget, that was the best they could do. It certainly wasn't perfect, but maybe perfect isn't possible in that location with such, water movement and swell and all those sort of things in a location that's been chosen because it's convenient to the town, more so than it's convenient to where's the best spot to build a boat ramp.
True. Good point, Rhodey. Yeah, well, it was interesting, and I completely agree. I don't think that's going to be the last we'll hear of it. We're certainly going to make the most of it this summer. We'll be down there fishing. There is no question about that. So you're going to get some photos for us before too long about how it is on the ground, and we might even try and chat to a few people at the ramp and get a bit of feedback
Let
from
us
them.
know if you do launch there over the upcoming long weekend or you got any photos for us. It'd be great to see.
Good call. All right, Rhodey. Well, that's a good little wrap-up of our conversation with Fraser. Let's get into the fishing report.
Rhodey and Diz have been out on the water to bring you the news about where they're biting. Now it's time for the fishing report.
Well, we've got a bit to get through here, Rhodey. Some nice little sections to run through here on the fishing report. So our great friend Hugh Sangster, wonderful bloke.
He's a ripper, isn't he? Yeah, he's a good man.
He went out with Balgowan Charters. We've had them on the podcast before, and they run a wonderful charter business down there at Balgowan. They've got a lovely Galant boat, beautiful piece of machinery that guarantees you a lovely, safe day.
I thought you were going to say guarantees you fish. And that's a game call for a charter.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to put the mockers on them like that. But I tell you what, they did well that day, mate. They cleaned up.
They certainly did, Diz, as always. And interesting, so they got the bag by 9 o'clock, I think Hugh said?
Yeah, so I think it was looking a bit dicey whether Hugh was or wasn't going to be able to make it. A bit of sickness in the family, a bit of sickness on his behalf, whatever the case might have been. But he made a mad dash down there, got on board, got amongst them, and had the bag in, bit over an hour, I think.
They did, Diz, and interesting, Hugh was saying, is it Tim, the skipper?
Yeah,
Tim? I think
Golding?
it's Tim, yeah. Hugh was saying that Tim had said that they'd only noticed a bit of foam potentially from the algae in the last week or so.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that it may be spreading up that side, so the western side of Yorke Peninsula on the Spencer Gulf, which I know was predicted to happen over the months that we're in at the moment. And it hasn't really happened at this point. It's sort of stayed out of that Gulf largely, but fingers crossed it's not going much further and it doesn't get any worse.
Yep.
But certainly there were some signs of foam and, those dirty looking bubbles on the side of the boat, Hugh said.
Yes, yeah, good call. Nice little update. Let's keep an eye on that one. We certainly hope it doesn't affect too much of the fishing on that side because we know how damaged the St Vincent Gulf is by the Algal Bloom. So we certainly hope that the Spencer remains relatively unaffected, Rhodey, so that people can still get out and get amongst it. Rhodey, we've talked a little bit about the communication we've had in from Mark at Wallaroo, and of course he had a wonderful day on the water. Got amongst them.
They got the bag of whiting diz, which is great to hear. I think Port Hughes has still been fishing pretty well. Maybe not quite as well as when we went a couple of weeks ago when every man his dog was going over there. But maybe that, I don't know whether the weather over the weekends has been quite as good the last few weeks, Diz.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Haven't been keeping an eye on it because I've kind of had to strike a line through fishing over the weekends of late. So haven't been watching it, but that sounds believable.
Diz, what else? So we're still getting some salmon on the Flurio, Waipinga, those sort of places are fishing well.
Yeah, they are. And I mean, I think that's been a bit of a saving grace for those that like to go down to those usual spots where they do get a feed of salmon, whether that be off the beaches or some of those jetties down in those parts. But it's been great that people have still been able to get out there and get amongst them and catch some fish that they seem to be surviving quite well through
and
the
Port
algae.
Narungga jetty, since that reopened, has had salmon.
Yes, yeah, it has been. That's a very popular jetty. They seem to do quite well on the salmon when the weather gets a bit wild.
Yep, and over on the bottom end of the Yorke and Eyre peninsulas for the salmon as well. Diz, I think Port Lincoln's been fishing pretty well in general, Diz.
Yeah, I think
your whiting and also your offshore, sort of your Narungga and those sorts.
Yeah, I think when the weather's played the game and people have been able to get offshore, they've certainly done well. A lot of those Flurio charters that are able to get, down offshore, whether it be chasing nannies or snapper.
Southern fishing charters, Diz.
Southern fishing charters.
Getting plenty of snapper.
Yeah.
Obviously in the allowed zone, Diz, down past sort of KI way.
Yeah, they've been doing well. We sort of haven't had too many reports from KI, but of course it's great news that the shellfish harvesting has been able to resume over there. We can only take that as a positive sign, so hopefully people do quite well on the fishing. We know that Gav's been doing well on the north coast, particularly when he's sort of got away from the coastline, but that's what he usually does. He loves getting out into some of those untouched waters.
And Diz, the other thing I did want to touch on is some of the sports fish that we normally get turn up around this time of year. The kingfish around sort of the upper Spencer Gulf would normally be starting about now, wouldn't it, Diz? And we haven't heard a lot.
Yeah, we haven't heard a lot.
Whether that's locals keeping their information under their hat.
Yeah, I suspect there's a fair bit of that would go on each and every year about people sort of wanting to keep some of that, some of that under wraps for a little while so that they can fish it relatively, unpopulated and not get a cast of thousands there. So it'll be interesting to see whether that starts kicking off. And, of course, it won't be long before summer genuinely hits, and we're really hoping that the tuna do rock up on the far sort of west coast offshore areas, and we know that'll be a sign of things to come as they start making their migration. So we will keep a close eye on that, Rhodey, won't we?
We certainly will, Diz. And one more thing, obviously far away from South Australia, but the yellowfin tuna run in New South Wales. I've been following a few pages and a few people posting about that as apparently being the best of all time.
Wow.
Just fish everywhere. Wow. And, multiple fish, big fish. They fish them top water, they troll, they use live bait, they do the whole lot. And those yellowfin tuna are a bloody cool looking fish. And that is something I would love to do one year, Diz, is go and try and catch a yellowfin off New South Wales.
Yeah, good call. And really good chewing as well, I've heard.
Not quite as good as southern bluefin, is that fair?
Yeah, I don't think it's quite as good as southern bluefin, but I did happen to be in Sydney a couple of weeks ago and they had yellowfin tuna sashimi and it was good.
Nice. All right, Diz, that's a pretty good fishing report, I think.
Yeah, very good, mate, and a wonderful episode. Some really good updates there. Great to have Fraser on the line. Of course, the listeners can find us all across Facebook, Instagram. Send your photos in. We absolutely love it. And you can get this podcast anywhere that podcasts exist.
Including YouTube, Diz. That is going well. I did have some glitches.
Yes, but couple of technical difficulties.
I've had my tech advisor on the line, which is Google, and I've figured it out, and we're getting a lot of hits on YouTube again, Diz.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for listening, guys.
All right, speak to you next time.
Rhodey and Diz hope you enjoyed today's episode of All the Gear But No Idea. Keep up to date by liking and sharing us on Facebook and Instagram. And you can subscribe on all the major podcast platforms. Until next time, good luck fishing.